Hello, sweet souls. It's DTO in the flow, and this is a live streaming podcast. Welcome. If you have not been here before, I am an artist, musician, and I'm super grateful because I get to also interview so many amazing artists, musicians, and people that are following this path of creativity in the world. And so one of my projects right now, if you've been following my journey, is that my beloved Himalaya and I moved to a slice of paradise that we call Costa Rica. And this is where I'm currently podcasting from. I'm actually underground around the spot where it says DPAKworld.com. I'm right there underground. And I have a beautiful recording studio, and this is Himalaya and myself, and we run a wellness and retreat center called Embody Costa Rica. So I just want to make sure everyone knows where to find me and give you some orientation of where I'm located in the world. So anyone out there, I'd love for you to comment, ask a question, or share. Feel free to let us know where you are currently located. And if anything, to feed those algorithms, you can comment with your favorite emoji. And if you want to check out any of my music, go to DTO Music on all my platforms. And today I get to interview an extraordinary artist, soul brother from another mother, and it is DPAK. He is a one-man solo act. He does arena rock, dream pop anthems, emotional power ballads, cinematic soundscapes, similar to Pink Floyd, David Bowie, Prince, as though if they had an Indian baby together, right? Who happens to also play the violin. So that's the ingredients. That's the alchemical, results. And so Deepak plays, as mentioned, the violin. He's a vocalist, guitarist, keys, beats, improvisational live looping. Also an amazing producer. We did a track together called Over the Ocean that is out there that we encourage everyone to check out. And so Deepak is also a songwriter, composer, and he's worked on the complete full score of original songs for Plandemic, the musical. And it's been amazing to witness from my perspective, all that he's been able to do. He is a violinist at Disney. He's worked on a series called Mira, Royal Detective. And he has also performed with some massive names in the music industry, Rihanna, India Ari, Jason Mraz, and was a frontman of award-winning electropop supergroup Robot Nature. All right. And you can find Deepak anywhere if you go right here below, deepakworld.com. Want to make sure that people know where to find him. His website also is right here. And without further ado, let's bring on Deepak. Nice to see you, brother. How are you?
Can you hear me? Oh, hey, how you doing? There we go.
Yeah, thanks for being here today. So as people know that have seen my podcast before, this is live streaming. It's a 5Q interview. So a little drum roll, and let's jump right into question number one. All right, let's hear. What is your origin story with music?
Ooh, amazing questions. Yeah, I grew up surrounded by music. Both of my parents, my mom and dad, are amazing musicians growing up. They don't do that professionally, but they're from India. I have an Indian background, if you can't tell. And music's a huge part of our Indian culture. So it was just like all my cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, they were always singing and playing instruments. Carnatic classical South Indian music was sort of just always happening. And so my mom was a great singer, and my dad is a veena player. It's a South Indian instrument. So, I was just surrounded by it from the womb, from birth, always hearing it. So I think it was just ingrained in my DNA, ingrained in my cells. You know how it is when you're very young, there's strong imprints. The younger you are, the more your brain absorbs. So I think absorbing it nonstop from in the womb and beyond is what created my background in music. I did have some violin lessons when I was very young, doing some Western classical, from a Russian teacher. But, I was very much, as they would label ADD, I think it's just extra creative and didn't really fit in the box as much. So, I had enough lessons to get the structure and become, have the technique. But I think learning the theory and all, I became more of a street musician, a gypsy musician, figured out by ear. And I really got into just kind of playing on my own and picking up guitar, teaching myself everything else and not having lessons, guitar, piano, bass, drums, singing. I was always listening to Michael Jackson and Radiohead and other artists like that, and then just trying to copy them. Watch TV shows that had like amazing jingles, or like even reruns of Gilligan's Island with my mom, and silly stuff. But I would just always be singing along, and I think my parents were like, "Hey, he's very musical. He's singing in tune, singing the theme songs. Like music was very natural to me. I just always felt like expressing and singing was something I did from age 3 on. So, I mean, that's the basic background, just being surrounded by it, having Indian parents, and then just having an ear and just mimicking what I heard. And, you know, as I went through life, I just decided to pursue it eventually later on.
I love that. We have that commonality of our families being musical and actualizing that into our consciousness. I love the fact that, you know, we as human organisms, we actually developed a sense of hearing, you know, around like 18 weeks or so in the womb, and we start to hear, and if anything we start feeling vibrations, right? So the fact that your parents, like my parents, were playing music in the household, that's such a special opportunity for us from the very start, right? We got the preloaded version of what it is to be a musician and a creative soul. So that is something really great. And you know, every superhero has an origin story, so I'm so grateful I got to hear yours, brother. All right. So then you absorbed the music, you heard your family, all the traditions of your culture that has music as well, TV, friends, all of it, school. Then at some point, there was probably a moment where you started to say, okay, well, how did then I create this to be my own? Like, was there an aha moment? Were you just like fiddling around, all puns intended? So let us know what inspired you to play music and then go on to write your own music.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just sort of continues directly out of the origin story. And I think I forgot to mention one thing. We talked about TV, movies, listening to Michael Jackson, Radiohead, some of my favorite music, and singing those songs. What got me playing guitar was hearing songs I loved, like Radiohead, and trying to figure out how to play them on my own. And since I didn't have a theory background or anything, or any teachers, I was just figured out by ear, figure out how to play it. Another thing to add to the list was video games. I have certain video games I used to play, like Tetris or even Final Fantasy, and I just enjoyed the music and the score, so I'd figure out how to play them, and that's how I learned piano, was through video games. So eventually, you know, I went to school to be pre-med and pre-law, followed the typical Indian path of either being a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or a computer scientist. So I was doing that in school, neurobiology, physiology, criminology, criminal justice, but you know, all throughout school, before that, high school and everything, I was singing in the choirs and doing orchestra and things like that. And when I got to college, I did do an a cappella group. And that's like the big moment for me, was being in an a cappella group as an extracurricular activity made it different than just being in school and doing it in sort of the more cliche, like nerdy theater kind of way, which again, I love, but it was still had this kind of stigma around it where it wasn't, quote, cool. Looking back, obviously, I think it was cool. But I had a self-conscious around that because I was trying to fit in, being a first generation Indian. So I was already like, had my own doubts around, oh, is this cool? Is this cool? But going to college, singing an a cappella group, it became cool suddenly. Like, I mean, we were like rock stars singing all a cappella. There's a whole culture. I don't know if anyone out there has seen the movie Pitch Perfect, which is hilarious, but it actually really is pretty accurate, that there's a whole culture around a cappella and performing. And it's like, there's 1,500 people at these shows. I went to University in Maryland, College Park, and we'd do these shows and it would be like 1,000, 2,000 people at these things. We'd be touring all over the place, meeting people, you know, it was almost like a fraternity in a way. And that became this fun feeling of like, oh, this is fun. I can sing and be on stage, and thousands of people are going to be like in joy. They're going to be feeling joy and feeling a transcendent experience, and that we can bring that to them. We can actually be in service to create an experience that's so positive and uplifting for people. It felt like being a wizard, like a magician. And so I'm like, I'm going to school, doing my classes, and I'm like, this is cool. But then I would be invigorated and energized by performing in front of an audience, and what, you know, positive energy could be brought to a large amount of people at one time. And that gave me the vision of like, oh, there's a really powerful influence possible by being an artist. And hitting millions of people. Like, I'm inspired by Michael Jackson, Coldplay, some of my favorite bands. And when I see what they're bringing, this is true healing. Like, music is healing and it's unifying. It's a universal language. And so that's what inspired me, was watching other artists that I was looking up to, like Prince and David Bowie and Michael Jackson and all of them that we named earlier, Pink Floyd, all my favorite music, going to Fish concerts, but also performing myself then and seeing that I could do that. Really motivated me. So when I did graduate from college, I finished my degrees, did my my pre-med, my pre-law. I also did finance and get my series licenses. But at one point, I think the bug in my soul called me to do something that could be bigger and be an impact-based musician, an advocate, an activist, if you will, through art. and that propelled me to just leave everything on the East Coast, New York and Maryland, and all the kind of more day job. It wasn't really a day job, but it was still like working for the man, being private, not fully expressing and sharing myself, and being like, hey, I'm going to come to Los Angeles and become an artist, and here we are.
Some of those artists, musicians, just, yeah, their music is timeless. It goes on forever and ever. Wow, I love that. And I'm grateful to hear that you're like the perfect, as my mother-in-law would say, the perfect Indian boy, because you have pre-med, pre-law,
And
checking
finance.
the boxes, finances, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Himalaya, we've been together 7 years now, and it's amazing to witness those children in the family that become doctors and attorneys, of how proud and how it's like the holy grail, right? It's like
Oh yeah.
you've won the game board of life. So what do your parents, because they are musicians, but what does like other extended family members feel about you taking the pathway of being a musician, and
Yeah.
besides taking those other very ingrained pathways?
Well, it's a perfect question, because that's the thing. Like, really what the parents want to do is be able to brag about their kids.
Yes.
That's part of it. And it's also, obviously, they want the best and they want them to succeed. So it's a combination of all those things. I think when I first left the East Coast, left my family to come out here, there was a little bit of question and concern, because it's a foreign thing. I wasn't familiar. But I think after a year of seeing successes, like I got a role as a co-star in Modern Family. I got national
Mm.
commercials, was in Super Bowl commercials, was making income, was being seen. And again, since they wanted to brag about their kids, well, it was actually other parents and other cousins going to my parents going, oh my God, have you seen DPAK? He's on this, he's on that. My parents were just, they didn't have to even say anything. People were coming to them. And so they all of a sudden were getting clout, having this breakaway, son that's doing this thing that's actually getting more of accolades and attention than necessarily, their son went to Harvard, this and that, which were awesome too. And they were all proud of their cousins. And I love my cousins that have gone to Harvard and Yale and Georgia Tech, and that are, top level Microsoft. But I'm the one of the few in the family that did the different thing. And that's kind of, to them, they're looking up to that more than I would have expected. And now I see why, because they're like, whoa, you pursued your passion. We're proud of you, son. And my parents are definitely proud of me. My mom was at my event last night and was just so happy to see me public speaking as we're doing an interview now and performing, and getting that validation from people. That's actually a lot bigger than, that might happen if just by going to school, so it actually worked out tenfold.
Hmm. Yeah, and I love how too, because you listen to your soul, like your dharma, and it was like, okay, it's go time, and you really followed that, and it feels like you got to live different lifetimes in the same life, because you also pursued other interests. But in the end, the fact that, as you said, you're bringing um, your joy, your passion, and then your family, an amazing story to brag about and to share. It's really fantastic. I'm sure when you got the Disney gig, that was a
That's the
really
biggest
game
one.
changer, right?
That was probably the biggest one, because it wasn't just Disney, which is a big name. It's also, my specific show was bringing Indian culture to the world. And that was my job. I was the head of the music. I was basically one of the top heads in the music department, bringing, arranging, orchestrating, and consulting for the whole show. So I was playing all the instruments, producing the songs, playing violin, singing, producing the beats, consulting, hiring other indie musicians, people in our community like Sheila Bringy and other people that I brought in that were also South Asian, that they wanted to feature South Asian culture. And Disney was allowing us to bring that to the forefront. And it was not just the music, it was also the culture. They were celebrating Diwali, an Indian holiday, through the animated TV show Mira, Royal Detective, celebrating Rakhi, Raksha Bandhana, which is an Indian holiday about brother and sisterhood. Holi, all these big festivals were being featured on the show. And I got to consult and answer questions from people that were really genuinely interested in Indian culture, and be one of the representatives as a cultural consultant, as well as to bring the authentic Indian sound that I was blessed to grow up with by having Indian parents that, that taught me some of that Indian music. So they were looking for that. They were looking for someone to bridge the East meets the West. And it ended up working out great. Oh, are we there? Hello? Hello, hello. Am I there? Oh, it looks like I might be on the podcast still. Okay. Well, I'm not sure if I'm by myself right now or if DTO is still here, but I will keep sharing, and hopefully this is still being streamed, and hopefully he'll be back in a second if I'm still going. But I'm assuming I'm still going. And so, yeah, that was the advantage of being able to be on the, involved with the Disney show, was that it was a cultural, a moment that my parents got to be extra proud of, because it wasn't just another big credit for them, just like Modern Family or performing with Rihanna or all these other credits that were great, that they're not as connected to. They didn't necessarily know who these artists are. They don't know. Are you still there?
Yeah, absolutely. Little Central American pura vida.
Okay, no worries. Well, I'll wrap up. I was basically filling time, just to continue the story, assuming that you'd be popping back on. But yeah, just talking about just continuing around Disney being a little bit more of a special moment because it brought something that they could relate to. The other accolades and credits were cool, but they didn't necessarily know them as well. It was just more like, oh, cool, he was on these big things. But then Disney became something they were familiar with, and also the Indian culture. So that was probably the biggest moment for my family for sure. Was that Miro Road Detective gig?
Yeah, and I remember because I follow you on Instagram. I remember when you posted about that, and Facebook. I was like, that is so awesome. And at the time, well, let's just show what the show is about, right? Royal Detective, and you can see on the upper right hand corner having like traditional, different outfits and wardrobe that you got to be a contribution to. So that's great that you got to be on, actually, because art means, from beginning to end, right? I feel like there's that manifestation period where the art comes to us. And then there's that period where you're going to find a team of people to make it happen, or you team up with yourself and make almost like a agreement or a commitment. Like, I'm committed to having Holi and all these holidays and these cultural important pieces come to a higher level of global consciousness where people understand it, the traditions, as well as, I'll say that when the movie Coco came out that Disney did, I'm a world language teacher. I got my master's educational technology teaching Spanish in the schools. When Coco came out, all the Spanish teachers are like, this is a blessing, because now we don't have to like show some old school film about Dia de los Muertos. We like, ta-da, here you go. Disney did it properly. And so, hats off to properly sharing about the culture and bringing the music and all the different stories that came about. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, because now, I'm traveling around in LA, or I'll go visit friends that aren't Indian at all, but their kids are all watching this show and they're learning about Indian culture directly through that. And then when they watch the credits, they see me like I'm one of the first names on the credits right there. And it's like, whoa, that's a cool, it's a proud moment for me. And also I'm excited that my culture gets to be shared outside of India itself, like to the world, and Disney gave me that opportunity to be a big part of that. So that was an honor for sure.
I love that so much, because yeah, there's definitely a part and piece of culture that, because the reality is that kids are going to watch Disney films, right? And so when we can begin at that younger stage to have cultural awareness, I feel it's so fantastic. And so what I was sharing earlier about being an artist and art, like seeing the process from beginning to end, and this really beautifully dovetails into question 3, which is to tell us about your creative process.
Absolutely. This is just a beautiful question, because creativity is so nonlinear that I feel like, for me, being creative is really just listening and allowing, getting out of my own way. And that could then result in an infinite amount of different ways that creativity can come, So, as a musician, for example, I might be reflecting about life, reflecting around the world, about the world around me, the state of affairs of let's say, division on the planet, and I might be inspired by that, and that might lead me to think of lyrics first and go, hey, I feel like there's some lyrics I feel like that can impact people and help bridge the divide in a polarizing and divided world. So that might be a way that creativity comes. But sometimes I'm just riding in my car and I'm like feeling the groove in my body, and that might result in a little bit of the little beat might come into my mind. And then all of a sudden I'm like freestyling melodies and beats, not really thinking about lyrics, just thinking about the feel of a beat that could get me grooving, or something that would feel good while I'm driving my car. Or sometimes I'm you know, in an emotional place, and it turns into a little bit more of a cinematic element, or I'm just playing on the piano. So I think really it's just everything that's possible to me is the creative process, whether it's instrumental, lyrical, starting with the drum beat, starting with the piano, starting with the guitar, starting a cappella, singing a song, or just journaling and writing poetry, or waking up in the morning and finishing my morning practice. I do a daily meditation and breathing practice, and afterwards a lot of downloads come in. And while that's happening, that might result in journaling. And that might talk about me sharing from a left brain place about things that are happening, which might then get into emotion from a right brain place, which might then organically turn into poetry. And then the poetry turns into melody, and that turns into a song. So there's just lots of ways that creativity can come through. And I think it's not just music at that point. Then it's just getting into ideas of being creative for how to serve the world. What are ways we can strategize from an entrepreneur, an artistpreneur, if you will, type place of ways to creatively impact people through actions, through programs, through workshops, through art, and combine it all. That's kind of where I'm at now with DPAK World, as we were sharing earlier, that my project is DPAK World now. It's expanding out of DPAK the artist into a creative process of contributing to society through a myriad of multifaceted ways through, you know, my life growing up doing multiple different things. Like, how can I creatively now turn that into an expression as an artist and public figure and influencer that can, you know, serve people in multiple avenues, get music out to the world, share songs, but also then empower and educate people around breathing and meditation, or communication skills, or how we can get along more as a society. So that's kind of where I'm at creatively, and also the mission and impact and how it all connects.
Well, I love that. I feel it's a really great opportunity for people to see how that process has the results, which is to share your flow and whatever that is that comes in. And I love this video of you.
It's okay if it takes a while. I like to make you smile. All these machines, they'll feel the sign. They can be the dreamers for anyone. Won't know you're saying this. I can't watch you cry. So these machines cannot control the way to bring it back.
So good.
Thanks, man. That's the latest. That must be the latest. That's the latest one. There's that one on the top right there. That's that's that blue one up there. That one is pretty cool because it's it was an event that was about freedom, and it was really about singing, bringing people together around, you know, identifying together as free people. And you know, this is like the artivism advocacy stuff that I'm really into here.
It's not the real thing, let it go. It's not the real thing, don't you know? And find it, don't deny it, 'cause it's always been a story. Turn the face it, can you make it? Take the shirt now, this is who we are. When you find it, don't deny it, 'cause it's always been a story. Turn the face it, make it. Take the shirt now, this is who we are.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to the stage right now.
So that was a 30,000 person event of people all aligned around, you know, the mandates that were happening. And, you know, like there's people on all sides of the aisle, left, right, it's, you know, political, apolitical, you know, and people that would technically be disagreeing on things. But what brought everyone together was like, hey, we might disagree, but at least we can stand for each other, individually living our lives our best ways. And I support you living your way. You support me living my way. We may not live the same way, but at least let's support each other doing that. And that's what that event was about. And I think a lot of people can align on that, like independence, supporting like anti-mandates, like not being forced by some government authority, which is a big part of my artivism now. And and advocacy is like saying, hey, you know, like we're all different, but can we all get along? You know, can we all get along? Or if not, can we at least live and let live and not harm each other, and not allow, you know, governments and authorities to have control over us? And that's what that event was really about. So that's like, it's kind of where things are going these days, for sure.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That was amazing stage and the setting, as well as being outdoors and that sense of freedom, right? And wow, I love the activism plus art, the artivism. That might be a new word for certain people that are listening right now. And it's a way for, you know, what your passions are and what you believe in to align with your art. And everyone's heard the old adage, right? Art reflects life, life reflects art. So it makes sense. And so those people in the crowd that we saw, people that come up to you after shows, leads us to question 4. How do people respond to your art? I think all of us got to see a sneak preview of what the response is, which is very positive. So yeah, give us you know, what you've witnessed as an artist. And you know, at the end of the day, I think we create art to create art to create art. You know, it's that whole like Zen Buddhist thing. If you ever ask yourself, why am I washing the dishes? The response is, I'm washing the dishes because I'm washing the dishes. It's like the unlock of why are we creating art? We're creating art. And let's just say, how cool is it when people respond to your art where they're like, DPAK? So what do people tell you? I'd love to hear some of those.
Totally. And it's an interesting evolution, as it's, you know, because we've gone through a couple of things I've shared, like, you know, whether it was performing with Rihanna or doing some of those other things like commercials or TV shows. And those were all beautiful. And people responded like, hey, we love this, or this sounds good, or this feels good, or we're so proud of you, or, you know, we're, you know, and all that. But what I'm noticing now with the newest stuff is that the response is what I really am going for, which is that they're feeling transformed. You know, because now it's not just let's make songs that sound good and feel good, which I want all the songs to sound good and feel good anyway. But if it can actually move people and inspire people and create transformation and healing, that's what I'm kind of going for now, is bringing together my passions, which have been, and I'm not even using the word activism as much. Now I'm using advocacy. I'm advocating for hashtag Team Humanity. I'm on Team Humanity. We're all on Team Humanity together. And I've been doing that for many years as someone who's encouraging, you know, spiritual awareness and breathing and meditation and all these different things, as well as communication skills and some of the stuff I'm passionate about that I've learned and worked on my own inner work and personal growth, that I'm seeing like, hey, this is really helping me understand other people. Interesting. If more people are aware of this, that can help the world, right? And that's been a thing I've been doing. And then I've been doing music over here, and they've been like two separate things that are happening. And now as I'm bridging them together into one, that's where I'm seeing like, oh, now people are responding in a way that has the impact that I've always been looking for. Like when I think about Michael Jackson, it was like, this guy's an amazing singer. He's doing all these cool things. He did Billie Jean. He blew people's minds. People are crying and transforming and experiencing emotions and tears. And because it's a transformational experience. And then he writes songs like We Are, or, you know, as part of songs like We Are the World, or writes Heal the World, which now gets into the advocacy aspect of his life. And that's where, you know, I'm feeling the calling right now, is making music like you saw that as a second ago, where that song is about, it's called King of the Moment, being in the moment. So then after that show in particular, people came up afterwards. There was, you know, about 25, 30,000 people. I got to talk to a large amount afterwards, and they were all like, wow, that was a transcendent experience. I really felt something shift in my body. I feel inspired to go live a better life. You know, those are the kinds of things I think are possible with music, and the kind of impact that I'm starting to see now, especially now with the musical Plandemic, the musical that you hinted at the beginning. That's really where I'm seeing the biggest impact, is in finishing this musical. It hasn't even come out yet, but we've had a lot of premieres and been traveling around, and I'm getting messages all the time of like, whoa, thank you. You know, it's not just like, man, that was an awesome show. It's like, thank you. It's like literally, thank you for, you know, changing my life, or thank you for inspiring me to have hope in humanity, that there is a possibility for us to, in this world that looks, you know, often hopeless, with politics and things that are happening and people disagreeing with each other and, you know, fighting so much, that there is a possibility for a transformational world in front of us, of healing, of community. And that's my goal, is to, you know, bring people together and to bridge the divide and to connect with every single person, you know, with love. And so, you know, that's what I'm really seeing right now, is a lot of gratitude and thank yous that are happening from music that has the purpose and intention of healing and bringing people together on a more like world stage.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel that when you can be that voice when people, not everyone has a microphone in the world like you and I even have in this moment, right? We get to share our own consciousness, our own possibilities, the energy of what freedom feels like, creative self-expression through music, being a part of a movement that not only is, with an asana yoga practice, we're physically moving our bodies, but what's that like inner movement? What's the soul stirring? And then the larger scale, like we got to witness, you get to play for massive amounts of people where there's like a wave of energy that's flowing, that's getting received. And so how people respond to your art is quite extraordinary, especially as you said, with the Disney opportunity on a global scale. Like how many languages does Disney translate? Every language on the earth, right? Exactly. So it's beautiful that there can be almost like a thunderclap where like, boom, now more people understand and connect. And guess what? We have this extraordinary breakthrough in our lifetime called technology. And not only with the music that we create, because a lot of people that got to see that clip playing, they may not even understand all the buttons, all the pedals, what's happening exactly. But it's lovely to know that when you can also respond to your own inner calling, as you shared earlier, now you respond to a way because you're curious and you want to have all the cool toys and see if it actually aligns for what you're going to be doing. And so the live looping, the vocals, the violin, multi-instrumentalist. So it's really powerful, I feel, when you can be in that flow state. So amazing.
Yeah, big time. And then I think just that a little piece that I just came up when you were sharing that is that it's starting to get clear to me, like who I am. And I think that's the question, I guess, for anybody is like, if we figure out our why, figure out who we are, that starts to get more clear. And so like, all these years I've been behind the scenes, if you will, just kind of figuring out myself and sharing with people on a one-on-one level, sharing and growing and personal growth and doing transformational work, everything from Landmark Forum to Art of Living to Hoffman Process. Like I've spent my life doing 20 years of different types of self-work processes, MITT, LifeSpring, you name it. I've been through the ringer because I'm really passionate about personal growth and discovering and excavating the layers that are not necessarily me. They're just pieces that I identify with that, but underneath that is like this kind of core spirit and being. And I think now I'm at the point, after backing up Rihanna and people like that, of seeing the impact. I was like, hey, I think I'm ready now to come forward. I was with Disney, I was behind the scenes and I got to see the impact of Disney itself. Like I'm ready to be the Disney, ready to be the Michael Jackson. And that's where I'm at the last 2 years, is now starting and launching myself as DPAK. And all of this is really, we're at the beginning right now of DPAK World. I'm just in the middle of like literally launching it as we speak. I've got the site active now, but I haven't even built out what's in my mind. I have a whole framework, but I think that's kind of where things are, where I can see, again, staying on question 4 about people responding to my art, it having a greater response. As I know who I am more, I'm able to then connect more clearly as an artist too, because the clearer I get on who I am, the clearer the art becomes. And then everything sort of just, the clarity just it just exponentially grows, the clarity. So that's kind of where things are.
Yeah, it just keeps on getting better. You're fully aligned with your path, I feel.
Yep.
And I've gone through a lot of those transformational programs, and that's that questioning, that curiosity. It's like we're kids in the sandbox. And, especially as men, I'll speak to this, we're not always exploring our emotions as much as we potentially could and have freedom to explore. So I love the curriculum and all the transformational educational programs that you and I both experienced, is because then it allows us to have these little truth bombs and we're like, oh, this and that. And, I'll share this to say that I really, before my dad passed, I got to have a relationship of connection with my father that wasn't available until I became available. And so I got to clean up and have this like amazing breakthrough opportunity. And then guess what? My art, my creativity, my relationships with myself, with others, everything just starts to expand. And so I love how you were sharing about the transformational power of music and art, because people can then respond. They can feel, it's like, thanks, brother, for putting yourself through the ringer to do all the work, because now I get to receive something that's even more, magical and like profound, where then it touches me in a way that, I feel moved to be a part of a movement, whatever that movement is. And that's where I feel like if we would even go macro view for a second, 1,000 feet in the air, like we're a part of a generational movement of space and time. And that reflects fashion. It reflects the festival scene. It reflects what's going on politically. It goes on with like the technology. And now when we look back, we're going to see that, oh, when the hippies and the bell bottoms, and then, you know, Four Dead in Ohio by Neil Young, like all these art reflecting life experiences. And then of course the pro-peace, anti-war movement, the Vietnam War. So all of this like condenses, you get LSD, you get psychedelics, you get Woodstock. But when you look back, that was an era of like consciousness expansion. And for us to see what a wrong is and how we can make it right. So I feel we're living through this extraordinary time in the 21st century where we get to be these hybrids, because you and I grew up without the technology as much, without, like, I had a paper out, so I remember the paper. And so it's like now we get to have like massive amounts of information and data put into us. And so I feel like art, if we almost have a responsibility to condense all of that into one song, into the project that you're currently working on, into the Disney movie that came out. So it feels really like a really great way for us to get to know you further, because we understand like where the energy is coming from and where it's being focused on, you know, where we get to now like have a deeper look at who this guy is right up here and over there. The other DPAK once upon a time.
used to be
spelled
a different way.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's an evolution. Like I was first Dave the Organism, then I got into DTO. So I feel like there's all these in-depth parts about it. Well, talking about DTO and DPAK, let's pull up our collaboration.
Yeah.
We did a track called Over the Ocean. I'm going to give everyone out there a little quick backstory. So this track I actually wrote in 2014, and I was working with Stonebridge, Grammy-nominated house producer from Sweden, and he showed me a lot about how to produce dance music, side chaining for all you software DAW, digital audio workstation geeks out there that know how to side chain. It's like if you're a skateboarder, it's like, can you ollie, dude? Can you side chain? Exactly. So that was one of the ways that I started to work on house music. And then when I had my big aha, and I started creating my debut album, that was more ambient yoga, meditation style music, I shelved this song. And then I got into, of course, ecstatic dance and more upbeat music. And then I reached out to you, DPAK. I was like, hey, I got this track. I didn't even tell you the title of it, which is kind of fun. And from there, passed it over to you, tag you're it, gave you the baton. I know we got the Olympics starting. And then you got to sing on it. You got to play whatever instruments you felt you wanted to pull from your bag of tricks. And then I got to put them in the project. And so, yeah, let's jump right in. Let's give everyone a little sneak preview of Over the Ocean.
They come and go, the waves are passing by. The ocean waves, they guide me through the night. They come and go, the waves are passing by. The ocean waves, they guide me through the night. And they come and they go when the time has turned the tides. And come and we go, the waves are passing by. and the oceans carry me home.
Yes. Little
Nice.
sneak preview.
Nice.
Yes. Yes.
That is
All
crazy. Like
right.
you were hinting at that I hadn't heard the title or anything, but then somehow channeled lyrics about the ocean. And then yeah, it's kind of was synchronistic for sure.
Yes. I love that. Frequencies. Feels good.
Alignment.
All right, brother. It is. We're all connected. All right. So question number 5.
Oh,
Thanks
yeah.
for being the 5Q journey. Is any closing words, advice, or wisdom?
Yeah, I was actually just kind of teasing that a little bit on the last question, which is like for me, really diving into who I am and really spending that inner work is really what has led everything, to where it is. Asking questions like why, like what is my why, and then asking why again, and then why that, and then why that, and like continually asking why often leads to this this deeper sense of knowing of thyself and what our mission is and what our purpose is. And for me, that's been the most important thing. I mean, I could write a million songs and they could all sound good and feel good. And like, it's a hit song, it's a catchy melody, it's a great beat. But there's a deeper thing when it becomes like I'm connecting to the music. And this is not just for musicians, this is for anybody. If we're, going through life and just, focusing on security and safety and things like that. I understand that's important, that we need to do that. But I think that there's a bit of safety that can keep us on the surface from achieving a potential to go into our deeper selves of what we can do, what impact we can create. And everybody here, I think on this planet, 8 billion people or more, have a potential to create impact, whether on a micro level or a macro level. And that's up to each person what their calling is. Because some people might feel like, hey, I got a worldwide calling, I want to reach millions. And some people may be like, hey, I just want to have a one-on-one, I want to be a therapist or a something and have one-on-one and help people one at a time. And I think they're all equally necessary. But I think asking those questions is the biggest advice I can give is, be on the inner search. Not focusing so much on the external world and what's this person doing and comparing and why are they doing this? I mean, I think it's looking at other people for inspiration is important, but not from a place of judgment of them or blaming them or comparing ourselves to them and judging ourselves, but from a place of, hey, I'm inspired by that person. What did they do to get there? Let me study them a little bit. If you study the people that are successful that you're inspired by, you'll learn how, now how to reinvent the wheel and be successful. So I think that's the number one advice is inner work, being on the personal journey, focusing on personal growth and transformation, asking our questions, why, who we are, what we're doing, stepping into daily practices, I think are really important to me, routine of some kind to glue the day together. And then so I have like basic routine that's very much consistent every day. And then the rest of the day, then organically, I can trust is going to fall into place. But I do my meditation, my breathing, whatever it is for you, it's the gym. I think writing and journaling is really important. I would give that advice and wisdom if I had to. And then the biggest piece outside of that would be not outsourcing our authority. I think we're in a world where a lot of people are becoming, it's natural that we feel dependent on others for information. Like, oh, this is my doctor and this is my my government, my authority, my media, this person and that person. And I'm not, and in the process, we're not fully trusting ourselves as much. And we're just taking things, well, they said I'm unhealthy. I'm like, well, do you feel unhealthy? Oh, no, I feel fine. But my doctor said I'm sick. I'm like, well, you might want to like just if you feel not healthy, if you feel healthy, you're probably healthy, and like there's a whole thing around that. I think a lot of people really are outsourcing power, outsourcing authority, and not really sitting with themselves, which is connects to the first thing I said, which is sitting with ourselves, but listening to ourselves, trusting ourselves. I think we could trust ourselves more as individuals and as a human race. And I think that would lead to a lot less expectation and dependence and friction that we have where we're now outsourcing our authority to others. And then we're getting mad at them. We're like, let's say we expect the government to do something for us and then it doesn't work out. Now we're mad at the government. I'm like, but let's take responsibility. We depended on them. And so that was our choice. Like if I depend on myself, I'm not going to be upset with any government because I'm focusing on making my life amazing. I'm not depending on anybody else to make my life amazing but me. And then I can focus on being in service to other people and building community and, helping people that need help. So I think that's kind of where my mindset is. I think that's the biggest advice I can give is like, trust yourself more, do the digging, figure out who you are, ask yourself questions, who am I and why? And I think that life will create magic out of the unknown. You might actually develop a career you never even planned on, or invent something you never planned on, or do something completely different that you never would have thought of because you were playing it safe.
Oh, I love that. And anyone out there that got to hear that, even if you just extract like a few ways of just adding those ingredients to the recipe of your life, I absolutely will agree with everything you said. And when we get to be sovereign beings and we get to choose our own adventures and we get to have control in the ways that we're able to circumstances. And as you said, don't shop out your authority. And my mom always said, you know, trust, but, you know, lock your front door. So there's this balancing act, right? Like,
Yeah.
want to believe because we're like, oh, there's someone that's going to take care of me. But then you also get to be your own person and control. I always say this with electronic music production. Now that we have so many options and instruments we can play, we get to be commanders of our own sound spaceship. Like we get to choose what we choose. And so I feel like as an artist, and that's why I love the advocacy aspect of who you are as an artist, is you're advocating for people, the 8 billion human organisms out there that may not know that they can take the power back, right? And you don't always have to rage against the machine. You can always sage against the machine and do some inner work as well.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. And we're going to close with our track. I mean, let's have the music speak for itself. Everyone out there, make sure you go to DPAKworldbelow.com and check out Instagram, same handle, DPAK.world. And I know, as you said, this is only the beginning and I can't wait to follow your journey. So everyone make sure you go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, check out some clips, and we will close out with Over the Ocean. Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me, buddy.
You're welcome.
We are the stars align, we shine for you. We light the skies above, our love shines through. We are the stars align, we shine for you. We light the skies above, our love shines through. You can feel me rise, the essence of the moon. The energy be filling me while the sun is come and gone. And I have foreseen, been counting the days. You're looking at me on the other side of love. And all that you feel, you give it to me. The oceans rise and we floating above. We are the stars align, we shine for you. We light the skies above, our love shines through. We are the stars align, we shine for you. We light the skies above, our love shines through. Waves are coming into love. over the ocean. We are the stars align, we shine for you. We light the skies above, our love shines through. In the oceans of life, the waves are coming in. In the oceans of